All right, new episode of the Danny Beal Show here with Jeff Palumbo, Associate Head Coach, East Carolina. Really cool conversation. They're down in Clearwater right now getting ready to tune it up for this week. They got tomorrow night, Tuesday evening, the first night game that they've played in a long time in Clearwater. And I was joking with them that it's the first time they've been in the first base dugout since at least I've been at school. But it's going to be very cool to watch them compete this week. Hopefully they can bring it home. But a cool conversation about this year, how it's gone, his whole coaching journey, and some really cool conversations towards the end about recruiting, his family, some other really good stuff. But hope you guys enjoy this one. Yeah, let's go. All right, welcome back. Another new episode of the Danny Beal Show with some ECU baseball royalty, I guess. He's been around long enough where he's getting up there. But the guy that honestly makes the ship go, one of the most knowledgeable and detail-oriented coaches I've ever met and gotten the chance to work with. But Coach Palumbo, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Yeah, absolutely, buddy. Thanks for having me. I don't know about all that you said, but glad to be here.
No, don't sell yourself short. Seriously, You've been great to the program, not only me, but especially the position players. Obviously, you work with them more than you worked with me, but the recruiting side of it was awesome that I got to work with you and be able to, the proof's in the pudding with your infielders and your hitters and stuff like that. So it's been a pleasure to see you do your thing these last couple of years, and especially this year after I'm out of it now, seeing you guys do your thing this year.
Yeah, no doubt, buddy. Well, as you know, man, you got a chance to experience it firsthand, but so many positives here at ECU, and just the staff that get a chance to be around every day, and the types of players that you get a chance to work with, man. It's been fun. 11 years has gone really quick. So every year when you get into it doesn't necessarily go in that way. Although this year, believe it or not, has gone too fast. But when you look back on it, it's 11 years has flown by, which means you're enjoying what you're doing, which obviously it's a fantastic place to be.
Yeah, no, we'll get into it later when you talk about your family being able to raise your kids here and be in a good area and have a baseball centric town for sure. It's not even despite ECU, just with Greenville Little Leagues and all that good stuff. But
no doubt,
you guys are in Clearwater. First time you've been in this situation in a long time where you need to win it to get in.
Yep.
I was making a joke last week. I was going to tell you this before we got on, but I figured I'd save it. I was talking a clip on the Radiohead I did last week. This is the first time in 2018, probably 2018, that you guys will be in the first base dugout.
Yes. Yeah. I'm trying to think back. I don't remember. I remember, because it used to kind of flip flop a little bit, and now it's different. Right now, I can't even remember what year it was where it switched. When you're the home team, the higher seed, you stay the home team the whole time. Mm-hmm. So we prior to that, when they were flipping it and doing a little bit more like the NCAA tournament, where those coin flips and all these different things that weren't earned in the regular season. So, but now it's been a good bit since we've been over there. So it takes some getting used to it. So I guess one positive is I got a shorter walk to the coach's box, so that'll be okay. But I would gladly exchange the run for being the home team for sure. But part of it, as we've talked about it, we always it's around the corner when you walk out of our locker room. We get what you earn, and this year has not obviously gone according to plan and how we would like it to go. But you get a clean slate here in Clearwater, and if anything, past tournaments have shown us it's this thing is wide open once you get into this format. So you need to go out and play good baseball, no matter what dugout we're in, man. We got to just go play good baseball, and if we do that, we saw that last weekend, right, at home against UTSA. Every game is back and forth, and we got the winning run at the plate. I actually thought the game 3 that we came back and won and walked off was actually our worst game of the weekend that we played. So, and obviously UTSA has had an incredible year, and the coaching staff does a great job, and they got a really nice veteran-laden team with some young guys sprinkled in there that are really talented players. But this comes down to who plays better on any given day, any given weekend. So fun and excited to get a good practice in this afternoon and get back to it tomorrow and get this thing hopefully started off with a win.
It's funny that you say that because we were actually thinking the same thing. Last week we had little alumni group chat with a couple of us, and we were talking about how the last game that you guys won, we actually agreed. We're like, they didn't really play well, but the fact that they won is a good sign going into the tournament where it's like they can win ugly games. It's not, de facto, hey, they have to play the best game possible to pull out a win, which is good. But like you said, I mean, Tulane won 14 games in the regular season a couple years ago when they beat us. So it's like it doesn't matter what you've done in the regular season. It's a clean slate, like you said. And for teams that are good going into it, like UTSA, it's kind of shaky because you have to deal with the teams that are playing for their seasons. But for you guys, where it's, hey, you have nothing to lose. It's the next 6 days determines your season. So it's honestly kind of, I mean, from my perspective, honestly, I've never been in the position like you guys are now, but being able to do that, it's kind of freeing, I guess, and a message to the team where it's, hey, it's lay it all on the line.
Yeah, that's it, man. You just go out and you play, and it's I think easier said than done. When this scenario pops up, right? Or we've been in it where you just got to, hey, man, your season is going to be determined if you win today, right? And so it's different, it's unique, and some teams are able to embrace that and just go play and play free, and some people will put a little bit more pressure on themselves, right? So it's a matter of how you handle it and how this team goes about it. But I think it can go either way, right? We'll find out. Obviously, we need to go out and just play good baseball, like you said. And I think that comes from the guys, right? The atmosphere they're in and how they feel about it. But you're dead on, man. This is it, man. Let's just go play some ball, have fun. We got nothing to lose, and we know we're capable if we put it all together. I mean, on Thursday night, we played arguably our best game of the season. Put it all together, and I thought we threw the ball well on the mound, played incredible defense, and got some timely swings, and that's the recipe, right? That's the recipe. And as we talked about going into this weekend, we're in a style of play now where you have to do something to win the game. You got to make plays to win the game. And on Thursday, we did that. We made defensive plays with incredible double plays, and Drew Downs making a play in center field, and Dixon hits the 3-run home run, right? And you get guys, Ethan comes out of the bullpen and kind of stuffs their one rally, right? And those are, as we talked about the next day, those are winning plays. You got to go out and earn the wins at this stage. And on Friday, we flipped around and did the opposite. We made a bunch of losing plays, right? They just and obviously as a team, we're capable of doing both, clearly. So it's a matter of going out, and it starts on the mound, right? Going out and executing there. And if we do that, that gives us a good chance. And we got to play better defense behind them. We've done that in stretches throughout the year. We played really high level defense at times, and at times we haven't. So, we got to clean those things up. And in Clearwater, generally the wind's blowing out, just a matter of which way, right or left. And, if we can get some balls up into the wind, man, put some good swings on it, execute offensively, like you said, we can get going on all cylinders and run through this week and play great baseball. That wouldn't surprise me, and get a chance to sit there and watch on Monday where we're going. Or we could go out and if we play games like we've played on really on I guess it was Friday, Saturday this week, then it'll be a quick turnaround, and we'll be missing the beach here later in the week. So it could go either way, man. We just gotta make sure we're prepared and put in a good practice today, and that'll put us in a good spot for tomorrow.
Right. And one last quick thing, because you mentioned something in that answer that I thought was important, and after this we'll move on to your coaching career and how awesome that's been. But it's been well documented with such a young team, whether it's inexperience or just purely being freshmen or sophomores. How important is it? Because even in years past, when we've played bad on a weekend game, and we have the game notes the next day, and you're like, hey, it shouldn't be about anything else besides winning the game. Play the game the right way, make the plays to win the game. And that was with veteran teams. that I was on where we had honestly older lineups and older pitching staffs, and that was still a point of emphasis. But how important is it to make the guys now realize, hey, it's not about anything else besides making the plays when it matters and make the plays and do the things to win the game? Because, like you said, they haven't really been in the fight with that kind of thing. But how important was it to emphasize that, especially going into this week?
Yeah, I think that's always, the one thing about being in a program, and we'll get into yes coaching stuff later, but like where I've been, how long I've been there. But when you've been in a program now for 10 years, and you have kind of seen it all, right? We've had very very consistent success at a pretty darn high level, right? And so Coach Godwin knows the recipe for what it takes to be successful, and whether it's our individual areas or collectively as a group of coaches. Which Coach Godwin always lays that message and that foundation. It's, we know what it takes, right? And so sometimes as a coaching staff, when you're going through a year like this, it can be frustrating, right? Because you know what it takes and you're trying to convey a message to the players. And it's not that there's a disconnect. It's just that when you have a lot of youth and a lot of new players, it's hard for them to completely grasp and go then execute it, right? They've not experienced it. Your groups, as you got older, had experienced it. So if we had a bad day, you knew the recipe to get back to being successful, and you guys obviously had the talent in order to do that and not go through prolonged struggles. Where this group, a lot of them have not had success at this level. They have not had success at East Carolina. They're new to it. They've not gone through the struggles. And so individually, everybody handles that differently, right? And that's our job, to get the guys to understand and to try to get them out of maybe those struggles that they're in, or to understand as a group, fellas, it's not, we just need to get back. We're not that far off, right? And I think it was, probably, I don't know, 2 weekends ago or 3 weekends ago, I just spoke to the group and I told them, I said, fellas, this team, although we don't feel like we're in a great spot at the moment, I want you guys to think back to where you guys were as we went into the Saturday game against Coastal Carolina, right? Ethan had just struck out 19, and we played awesome baseball, and we had won 2 out of 3 against, we had given away a game against Kent State, but played good against Indiana State and Virginia Tech. You win the series there. Felt like you should have swept the series, but after some early season struggles, especially kind of on the offensive side and some defensively, we had kind of righted the ship, and we were playing good baseball, and we didn't end up. We really should have won. Coastal's going to end up probably hosting a regional, and we played better than them all weekend. We should have won 2 out of 3. We gave away the game on Sunday, and in my opinion, had some chances to execute. You win that series, you carry it in, you play great against William and Mary, and you're off and rolling in conference, right? So like, we're the same team, same guys. I mean, really, Braxton Trammell's the only guy that has been injured since that time period. Right. And we miss Braxton, and it'd be nice to have him. But in reality, at that time, he wasn't playing. So, you're really the same exact team ultimately that was, but it's just our state of mind, right? And that's what happens in a baseball season, right? You feed off of, what's going on around you, and you let that determine your outlook and your thought process. And, wanted to get them back to just understanding we're the same group, man. You guys got to believe in each other and believe in what we're doing, and we're really not very far off. We just need to go play, to your point, the baseball that we need to play. We need to make plays. We need to make winning plays. Guys are going to have to step up. And it doesn't matter if you're talented or you're not talented. Guys always need to step up, right? Guys always need to make big pitches when it matters. Guys always need to get the big swing with guys on base or bases loaded, 2 outs. You're going to look back in postseason baseball. The teams that get the 2-out hits or hit the big home run with guys on base are going to be the teams that win. It's just kind of how it goes, right? So, and on the flip side of it, when that happens, you look up and you're like, well, we lost the game because we didn't execute the pitch, or we didn't make the play on defense that allowed the 2 runs to score with 2 outs, right? So just kind of how the game works, and we're capable. We have the talent, whether or not they're young, old, new, experienced, it doesn't matter. There's enough ability here to go play good baseball. We've done it. We've shown that. We just need to do it when it matters, and we need to do it a little bit more consistently, and then maybe we've done it throughout the back half of this year.
Yeah, no, like I said, very insightful as always, and it's a deeper look into the behind the curtain stuff that a lot of people don't really necessarily hear often or understand, and it's always good to hear kind of your perspective, like I said, because, hey, you've been around and you've done it, and you've seen good and you've seen bad, so it's always a good perspective for sure. But I'm going to take a quick break from the show to bring you another ad. Our good friends over at Curtis Construction. They are proudly celebrating 65 years of excellence, but since 1960, Curtis Construction has been dedicated to surfacing commercial roofs with quality, integrity, and unbeatable service. From replacements and restorations to repairs, inspections, and emergency services, they've literally got you covered. Whether you need a trusted roofing partner or want to learn more about the trade, visit curtiscc.com or give them a call at 252 523 1078. That's curtiscc.com or give them a call at 252 523 1078. Shout out to Kelly Casey and her team for supporting the show. Huge supporters of ECU baseball as well, but I appreciate you guys and thank you for sponsoring the show. I'm going to take another quick break to tell you about our friends over at Sup Dogs. This episode is brought to you by Crush Vodka and our friends over at Sup Dogs, the official vodka of the ECU Pirates. Crush Vodka is made right here in downtown Greenville. It is 7 times distilled and twice filtered over coconut shell carbon. Crush Vodka is also gluten-free and sugar-free, but you can find bottles of regular vodka, orange, vanilla, cherry, grapefruit, in ABC stores throughout Pitt County, and it is coming soon to all ABC stores in the state. 100% of the profits from their regular Crush Vodka is donated to Team Boneyard to support ECU athletics. But big shout out to Brett Laverio for his support of the show. Crush and Sup Dogs has been great for the community, and we appreciate you guys for your support of the show and ECU athletics as a whole. Go Pirates! Let's get it a little bit into your background and stuff. Obviously, you're from Maryland. Tremendous background in terms of coaching and all that good stuff. Obviously the Archbishop Spalding background with Josh, and how when I remember when Josh got on campus, it was like, oh, so you already know Coach Palumbo.
Yeah.
For the background a little bit, but
Yep.
the background stuff as well. But getting into your being at George Mason as well, I wrote this down and I didn't know this, but you graduated all-time leader in hits, games played, and games started, and then you got drafted by the Giants. Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah, no, well, I was actually, I was on. It was my 4 years there were interesting, right? And I ended up choosing George Mason. I kind of joke. I was at the time I was recruited as a player. I was recruited by William and Mary, George Mason, Maryland, Indiana a little bit, and Radford. And I remember sitting down and thinking, all right, Maryland's last in the ACC. Radford at the time was last in the Big South. George Mason, William Mary were the 2 last place teams in the CAA. I'm like, man, I got
Good crew.
hey, these are the groups that. So where do we go, right? I was used to winning, and I had played at St. John's and was used to winning a lot, and so that was really important to me. And at the time, an assistant coach, Billy Brown, was the head coach and longtime head coach at the time, and continued to coach forever at George Mason. But they had an assistant coach, Coach Rakuya was there, and just my discussions with him and going through the process with him. I was from Bowie, Maryland, which is 20 minutes from College Park, where Maryland was, and had grew up a Terps fan, right, watching their basketball, football, and but I just felt like George Mason was the place where they could turn it around, right? That was a place where we could win, and I just didn't feel necessarily that strongly compelled about the other places that they could get their programs turned around in a 3-4 year stretch, and I did not want to go to a place where we did not have success, and so. Just believed in Coach Rakuya and Coach Brown and what they were selling. And, in those 4 years at Mason, man, we did. We went from last place finish my freshman year to winning the regular season my senior year by 8 games and, being the number 3 seed, being an at-large. And probably the coolest moment of my playing career was sitting in my house as a senior, and we were a bubble, man. We played. We were playing Wilmington. They were in the CAA then as well, and we were playing Wilmington. We were the 1 seed. We had to come through the losers bracket. We lost our first game, and we were bubble kind of the whole back third of the year. And we lost game 1. And I'm like, man, we just probably lost our at-large chance. And come back through the losers bracket, and we lose to Wilmington, and that we were the 1, they were the 2, and Delaware, who had upset us, they were the 6. Only 6 teams went, and they're sitting there in the winners bracket. They need to win 1 game, and man, I knew the CAA. We knew the CAA would probably only send 2 teams, and us and Wilmington were both bubble, and they had just beat us, and I remember just praying that Delaware loses 2 to Wilmington, so Wilmington can go and get the automatic bid, and we can get the at large, and they did, man. We're riding the bus home, and I'm wondering, is my career over, or are we going to go to regional, which was my goal. Like, I just wanted to play the NCAA tournament, and we ended up they pulled off. Game 1 was close, and then as we're riding the bus home, man, I think they 10-run ruled them, or they smoked Delaware good.
It's usually how it goes.
Yeah, we ended up getting the at large the next day, but just sitting around with my teammates, and we didn't know if we were in. Right, we're just sitting there. We didn't have a selection show. We didn't go anywhere. We just the whole team was in my living room, and I had 6 guys. We all lived in a house together, and the whole team's there, man.
That's
And just
awesome.
watching our name pop up on the TV was. It just felt like 4 years worth of hard work, man. Going from last to first and
Yeah.
getting an at large at Mason was a really cool goal for us, and able to achieve. We ended up playing Vandy in a tight game. Game one lost, and we lost to Jeremy Sowers, who's a first rounder that year for Vandy. And then actually UVA got upset by Princeton. They were the host. We were at UVA, and sure enough, they got upset. So we played the 1 seed in the losers bracket game
Go
and
figure.
lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we lost 4-2. It was a good game. Two
There
good
you
games, and
go.
we had a really good team, man. I got a chance to play. A lot of those stats are, because I played with some awesome players. So I think out of the 9 position guys my last year, catcher played for the Nats, drafted first baseman. Um, he was Blue Jays, drafted by the Blue Jays. Second baseman did not play pro ball. I played for the Giants. Third baseman played for the Phillies. Center
Wow.
fielder played for the Blue Jays, and right fielder played for the Rockies. With their organization. So we had a really good. I mean, shoot, I think 7 out of the 9 position player starters played pro ball. So we had a
Yeah,
good
for a
club.
colonial team back then, that's like elite. That's really,
Yeah,
really good.
we had a good club. Like I said, Coach Rakuya did a good job, and I could tell, like, if he's recruiting me in this manner, he's doing this with everybody, right? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's how I just kind of felt the gut decision to trust what he was doing, and that he'd bring in other good players as well, and we were able to kind of get it turned around. So I was fortunate to play some awesome teams, which was with some awesome players, which lended itself to a lot of those statistics for sure.
Yeah, and I think it proves like the being able to fulfill the obviously the dream and the plan you had for being able to turn the program around because you said that was the one that you saw the best fit, and like you said, 4 years of hard work, all coming to fruition, and then as you mentioned, getting the chance to play for the Giants too. What was kind of the transition like of okay, now that my college career is over, I'm going to get the chance to play, but what is the transition like after you get the call to get drafted, and what is your first season in pro ball like, and what is kind of the decision process after that to get into coaching?
Yeah, so it's interesting, right? Like different now because the draft then was during Super Regional weekend,
Right.
basically. So you
Yeah.
get done playing in a regional, and you've just been playing with these guys, and you had this goal, this team goal, and it was really honestly kind of how my mind worked. My dad was a coach growing up, and
It's a
I put 3
family full of
brothers, and
coaches.
that's right. So it just was always, yeah, individually you always have goals, but it was always for me about our team winning. That was just always the focus. And so now all of a sudden this thing flips and you lose, and you're sitting again. I'm sitting in my college house and with my 5 other buddies, and you're just kind of like talking about the year, your career. Some of them were juniors, so they were coming back. A couple of us were seniors, and we were done. And so but the draft now, and it wasn't on TV, right? It's over
Yeah.
the radio, right? You're listening to the you get on the website, man. They're breaking down the picks, and I was a whatever 15th rounder, and so you're going through it, and you're just waiting, and all of a sudden, I mean, it was just different, man. Like I'm sitting there, I'm literally sitting on my buddy's in his room. He's got it pulled up. I'm sitting
Were
on his
you
bed,
nervous? Like, did you have a
and
clue?
not. I mean, you're just kind of like restless. You're waiting to see
Yeah.
where or what
Yeah.
happens. You know what I mean? The draft was pretty long then, right? So I can't remember. It was 40 rounds, I think, at the time.
Yeah.
So I knew I was going to get a chance to play. It just was a
Mm-hmm.
matter of where or how this goes, and you're just kind of curious, right? And sure enough, boom. Name gets called, and it's the Giants, and I'm like, all right, like now, when am I leaving? Where am I going?
Where
Right?
do I
And I'm
go?
like,
Yeah,
where the
exactly.
heck are the Giants? Where's their short season team? And I look
Uh,
up, it's in out in Salem, Oregon.
oh
So
boy.
I'm like, all right, and just kind of waiting, right, waiting to hear from somebody, right.
Yeah.
And so a handful a little later, I get a call. Hey man, like obviously we're excited, yada yada yada, and get you out to we're gonna get you out to Arizona at some point. And so I fly out to Arizona, and it's a short mini camp out in Scottsdale, and it's like 4 or 5 days. And it's funny because I'm sitting there, and I'd played my whole senior year. I had a shoulder injury, knew my shoulder was messed up, but just I was a senior, and really at the time they had told me right preseason basically we need to get you an MRI, and I was like, I'm good. I'm not getting an MRI. What's going to come of this MRI? We got a week to go before the season starts.
Yeah.
You're going to tell me there's either
You see the results, you're married to it. It doesn't matter
that's
what the results say.
yeah,
I'm gonna strap it up.
no question. So, and right, I want to play pro. So if I go and get an MRI and it tells them that, hey man, there's a tear, that's probably going to be whether or not I play or not. Now I've basically just given them proof that I'm injured,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
So we roll through the season, play, and so I get out there and I'm taking ground balls, and I'll never forget, man. I'm sitting there with another shortstop, and he was from a D2 school in Chicago, and we're taking ground balls, and he's like, man, my shoulder's killing me. And I'm like,
Like,
mine too, man.
get in
Yeah,
line, brother.
that's right. Mine too. So we get sent out to Salem 4 days later. And I'll never forget, man, I'm sitting on the plane. And my roommate for those 4 days is a pitcher from Santa Clara. And we're on the plane sitting down. And, the beat, the bell goes off, right? And he's like, hey, can such and such, I forget his name at this point, but can such and such, please come to the front of the plane. Well, he had some stuff done, man, and came up that he had a hip injury. He literally got off that plane, man, never went to Salem, got cut, literally gone.
No way.
And so he was sitting in his seat, and I'm like, man. And so we get out to Salem, and I don't play game one. Yeah, I don't play game one. The other kid does, and I end up playing game two, and he ends up letting him know his shoulders bother him. He gets sent back to Scottsdale, has labrum surgery. So at this point now, I'm playing short every day by myself, and I'm like, man, I'm not saying anything. We'll just keep this thing rolling.
No, at that point,
yeah,
hey.
yeah. Hey, man, let's play ball, right? So it goes solid, and we end up actually play short. It's short season at that point. I think it was another 65 games or whatever. So you played your 60 college games, and now it's 65 with that, and end up playing some short, end up playing some second. It was, you're out, man. You're out there 3,000 miles away. The one thing I remember, I mean, it was tough, man. Honestly, mentally for me, it was a little bit challenging. I just never been on the West Coast.
Yeah,
You get done playing. Yeah, you get done playing. And you don't know you're on the West Coast. You get 3 days notice, boom, gone.
yeah.
And so you're out there and you get done, man. And it was challenging because you go for four, whatever, 2 strikeouts, you play bad, make an error, and it's like game's over. It's 10 o'clock on the West Coast, 10:30. You're not calling anybody, right? You're not calling your folks. You're not calling your girlfriend. They're sleeping. It's 1 a.m. back home. I remember, man, we get back from some road trips, and I was staying with a host family. That was a whole nother. I could talk for an hour about that setup, but it was not ideal. And man, getting back, and I just remember waking up and flipping on the TV, and you got in 2 or 3 from a road trip, slept until 11 or whatever, and you flip on the TV, and college football games are over. You know what I mean? Like on Saturday, you know what I mean? I'm like, where am I? Like, what planet am I on? Right? Yeah. So I just always had a hard time, man. I always felt like being on the West Coast, I just felt like I was behind in life, all the time.
It is
right?
so funny that you say that because I've always thought the same way. When I'm on the West, the time change screws me up. I'm not on my internal clock, but even Zach, Landon, Shank, Wiz, all those guys, the short season after they got picked up and they went over there to play, they're like, I'm on another planet. This is not real life. Everything is just off. So it's funny that you said that. It's it's not the only person that's ever said that.
I got over first thing I'll never forget. First thing, Scottsdale. Right, times have changed. Right, Scottsdale Giants. You're like, all right, I'm pro baseball player. Boom, check into the days in. Right, and you flip on the TV and Sunday night baseball's on, and I'm looking up. I'm like,
the sun's out.
It's 4:15. But it's an East Coast game on on ESPN. So it's just kind of getting used to it. But anyways, get out there and play well, man. Have a good year. Get a chance to play in the All-Star game, which was cool, a lot of fun, and but towards the back end of it, my shoulder was basically. It was cooked. So I remember getting, and I'd seen our trainers, and probably didn't go about the best way, but I'd seen our trainers and just told them, hey man, with about 20 games to go, I'm having a hard time here getting through this deal. And trainers told me, hey man, you're good. You're fine. Pull on some bands, whatever they do, and you're good to go. So I was like, all right. So got done and literally went home, and my a good friend of the family is actually the team doctor for the Rays down here in Tampa.
No way.
And so I just call him up and said, hey man, you check this thing out a little bit. So I fly down to Tampa. He scoops me up. He takes me to his house, really nice spot on Tampa, on the bay, and throws me down on his coffee table in the middle of his living room. And he's like, all right, let's check this thing out. And he's like, Oh yeah, that thing's torn, man. That thing's torn. He's like, we'll get
Nice.
you into the office tomorrow morning. We'll figure this thing out. So I call the Giants, let them know the deal. I'm like, hey man, like I can get this thing tomorrow, you know. And so they okay it just because he's a he's another big
Yeah,
league
yeah,
doctor.
knows what he's doing.
Uh,
Sure.
you know, and so I get the surgery. But basically, the whole next off season, man, I'm back at Mason. I'm training. I'm rehabbing. They let me do it back in school, and I had an internship set up with the Secret Service, which was allowing me to graduate. So I did my last 12 credits at the Washington field office with the Secret Service. So I did that while I was back home rehabbing, finishing up my degree, and I go out to spring training the next year, and I had a number of injuries. The shoulder was getting close, but I had some injuries with my feet that I was getting some cortisone shots with all throughout my last year of college, and
Yeah.
just kind of banged up, man. And so I just kind of felt like a couple things. One, I knew for me and the player I was, it was going to take a good bit to make my way up, and not to say I couldn't do it or believe that I couldn't have played. In the big leagues, but I wasn't the type of prospect that you're going to have to earn it right at every
Yeah.
level,
No, for
every
sure.
year, and
For
kind of
sure.
keep playing. That's just kind of the part of the deal for guys who are 5'8", right? So, but
I wasn't gonna say it, but yeah, spot on.
yeah, it's just reality, right? So you're not a top 3 round pick, and you're undersized, man. You got to go play well and prove everybody wrong, kind of throughout. So I knew it was going to be a 4 or 5, 6, who knows, right? And
Yeah.
I also knew my body was not really holding up, right? And so you kind of put the two. And in my mind, the way I work, it's like, I mean, I think about the future. I think about what I want, where I want to go, and what I want to do. And I knew I wanted to kind of get things going a little bit with the career, and I just didn't feel like baseball. I didn't feel like I wanted to play minor league baseball for 5 years. Basically, I was very team oriented. Nothing against the minor leagues or anybody trying to play in it. It's just for me, everybody's a different personality, and I struggled with the fact that the games really didn't matter, and
Yeah. No.
nobody seemed to care if they mattered, and to me that was foreign. And just a huge difference between sitting in that living room, man, just hoping our name pops up, praying our name pops up
Yeah.
because of what we had invested and what we had done, and and put into it, and then going into an environment that was very individualistic, and I had a
Mm-hmm.
hard time with that. And just that dialogue with that other shortstop, man, I'll never forget it. And it's like I was kind of like bummed for the dude that he was hurt, but I was kind of like happy that I now got to
Yeah.
play.
You get to
And that
play.
just
Yeah.
for me was kind of not great. And
Yeah.
so it's just different, right? Different. And everybody is different in how they view things. And I always tell players, man, like everybody's different. You may get in the minor leagues and love it, dude. You may think it's the best atmosphere. You love being around the guys, love being around the clubhouse. Everybody's built different, and everybody has different goals. And so I never discouraged. It wasn't my favorite thing, but that doesn't mean for our guys here in East Carolina or anybody else that has those goals and has those goals their entire lives, man, that they shouldn't go experience it and see if you can excel in it, because some people love it, right? And so I knew I wanted to get into it, and I ended up getting into coaching. Ended up going back and that spring training, getting out playing, getting there and realizing that my body's not holding up, and I'm not ready for another minor league season. So just let the Giants know, hey man, I appreciate the opportunity, but I have some other things I want to get into, and I'm still about a month away from playing, and this will allow you guys to kind of figure out where you need to send certain guys. So I got back home and moved back into my college spot where I was, and got into coaching. Got an opportunity to coach at a high school, Bishop O'Connell there in Arlington, Virginia, which is not far from George Mason. Coached there that first spring, did some substitute teaching.
Jeez
I was
Louise.
trying to line some things up, and wasn't sure at that point, right? Like I knew
Yeah.
I'd done the Secret Service internship. I knew trying to get into one of the agencies was something I was interested in. But kind of trying to navigate that. How am I going to do that? And was working some camps that summer and at George Mason, and Coach Stifler is now the head coach at Notre Dame, was the other assistant at Mason. And I had played with him. He was 3 years older than me. He's a senior when I was a freshman playing, and then he got into coaching. So I played for him as well. And, Kenny Munoz, who was the other assistant coach at the time, had some things go on and needed to get back in. He was going to go into scouting. And job opened up their number 2 position, which was a part-time, technically, how things have changed in college baseball over
Yeah.
the
No
last 2
kidding.
years.
Right.
Their second assistant was a
Part time.
part-time gig. So, and believe me, it paid part-time too. And but man, I jumped at the opportunity. Stiff says, hey man, I'm working their summer camp and trying to make some, whatever, $300 that week. And he says, you want to, we're looking for another assistant. you know anybody that might be interested? I'm like, I'll take it, man. I'm in. Let's go.
Yeah.
And so that was the start of my college coaching career, and did 1 year there at Mason, and Coach Stifler ended up getting an opportunity at VCU that he took, and so now the recruiting coordinator position was open, and I was 23 years old, and Coach Brown, man, I played for him. Just super thankful, he gave me that opportunity to coach, that first year, and he and I had we had a tough couple of weeks because he knew he needed to hire a recruiting coordinator, and rightfully so. He was not comfortable doing that with a 23-year-old, and
Yeah.
but it's funny when you're 23. I thought he was crazy. I'm like, how are you not going to give me this job? Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
like I'm
Yeah.
frustrated, man. I'm recruiting. I'm running the camps because nobody else was. I was part of the second assistant's job to run camps, and 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 Coach Brown told me he was going to hire. He was going to hire somebody else. He sat down. Finally, he didn't really. We didn't have a lot of dialogue for about a week, and he sat me down. He said, "Hey, I'm going to hire another person." And I said, "Well, Coach," I said,
That's wrong.
"Yeah." Well, I said, "Coach," I said, I mean, like, obviously, you got to do what you got to do." I said, "But to me," and it wasn't probably fair to him, but I was like, "Hey, Coach, like, look, I just, I feel like I'm prepared and ready for it, which I probably wasn't, and but just know, like, I'm gonna work hard, do everything I'm supposed to do. But if I get another opportunity, obviously,
I'm
I'm
out
gonna
of here.
take it, just so you know." And so I can't remember if it was later that day or the next day. He kind of changed his tune and he said, "Hey, man, if you want it, like,
There
it's
you
yours."
go. Yeah.
So yeah, so it was, and man, looking back, like, it was, I totally now understand where his mindset was and where he was coming from, and
Mhm.
that's what experience is. And I think a lot of people don't understand it. When you're in the moment and you are the person, it's tough, man, because you can't understand why somebody's doing something. But looking back now, I'm like, man, if I was a head coach, I would have had a hard time hiring a 23-year-old. Doesn't matter what I thought of
Yeah.
them, right? It's just they don't have that experience of failing, recruiting, the conversations, right? And I
They
didn't
haven't been
even.
around it for sure. For sure.
That's right. So, and now having experienced those things for myself, I understand how different I was 2, 3, 4, 5 years later than I was that year. But
Yeah.
I feel good about how how things went, and we worked hard, man. We some trial and error for sure, but that was the one thing Coach Brown was always incredible at, man, is he let you do your job. Like, he let you work, he let you fail, he let you learn. He would guide, but he was pretty hands off, and he allowed the assistants to be very, very involved in all aspects of the
That's so
program. So
huge.
so yeah, the experience I gained that first go round with Coach, and we were able to build it up. And man, year one, my first year as a second assistant, we were not good. We were young, and I just had a hard time with it because I didn't have the experience of failing. And then we got a little bit better the next year, and then we were very, very solid my third year there. And then the year after I left to go to UCF, they ended up being probably the best team in George
Yeah.
Mason
Go figure.
history, and they ended up playing as the three at East Carolina. So East Carolina was 1, South Carolina was 2, Mason was 3, and Binghamton was 4. So so that was, obviously we were able to build it up and put together a really good team on the field, and I got a chance to
Mhm.
coach my younger brother, which was cool.
That
So
is
that was
special.
a unique experience for sure for a couple of years before I bailed on him and left him there. But ended up getting an opportunity to go down to UCF a couple of years later, and it's funny, kind of tying it together a little bit. Coach Rakuya, who I had played for, and as I mentioned, the reason I went to George Mason, one of the reasons was he was good friends with Terry Rooney, who was at the time
Yes.
the
Yes.
recruiting coordinator at
Hmm.
LSU. He gets the head job at UCF.
Uh huh.
Terry, I guess, leans on Coach Rakuya for, hey, man, who's somebody that I need to look for to coach some infielders and do some things, short game wise. And my name popped up, went down, interviewed with Coach Rooney and Coach Godwin down there at UCF, and I guess that would have been summer of '08, and got down there, and Coach Rooney offered me the job, and man, a whole nother deal, right? Just going into kind of getting down there, man, and
Middle of Florida, like just hey,
yeah,
here,
yeah,
here you
Orlando.
go, go recruit.
Well, yeah, and it was awesome, man. Orlando, right? I mean, on face value, you're like, all right, I'm here at Mason. It's all I've known, and I'm going to get an opportunity to get down to Orlando, Florida. Like,
Yeah.
hey, man, worst places to live, right? So I'm like, let's go, let's do this, right? Conference USA, and man, like, I had, like, talk about no idea. Like, I get down there, and I'm like, I remember my first day. First day, I drive down on a Sunday. I'm by myself at the time. I'm dating my now wife Sarah, and she's back in Northern Virginia. I drive down to Florida, and I get in. I check into the hotel, Radisson Hotel, and University Boulevard. Coach Godwin, Coach Rooney had been in Georgia. They already been recruiting, and they're coming back. And they're coming back from Georgia, and I check in, and it's whatever. I check in at 6. I'm like, maybe they want to grab a bite when they get back in. Coach Rooney calls me. He's like, y'all good? I'm good. He's like, awesome. He said, let's meet in the lobby 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. We'll head to the office. Okay, cool. So I walk down there, and I'm like, it's 5:50. I'm like, hey man, I'm not being late, right? Like first day on the job,
sure,
like I'm gonna be down there 5:45, 5:50. I get down there, give it a couple minutes, don't see anybody. I'm like, all right. So I'm like, so my phone rings at like 5:53, and it's Coach Rooney. I'm like, hey, what's going on? He's like, we're in the car, man. Let's go. And so I literally hop in my car, man. We drive to the office, and man, I left. I could still like Cliff walked into my office at probably, dude, I don't know, man. It was probably 11 o'clock that night, and I'm still at the office at my computer doing some stuff, and like he's talking to me and like just being nice, man. Like, hey, man, here's Jeff. Like,
Right.
we hadn't know each other before. And
Yeah.
he's just trying to make conversation, and I'm like, hey, man, I want to go to bed.
Yeah, dude. I need a pillow, brother. Not now is not the time.
Yeah. I'll fill you in on my time at Mason later. But we're like talking but it was just, man, we just went to work, man, and like we worked. And I remember waking up some days at the time. I'd gotten an apartment eventually, had nothing in it, and I remember sleeping on the floor, man. We didn't have a bed. Like my wife Sarah was coming down
I was about
later.
to say, was she with you a lot down there?
She was not. She was up there. She decided to take a chance and move down with me. And
God
she ended
bless
up getting
her.
a job. Yeah, getting a job at UCF as well as an academic coordinator, which is what she was doing at the time up at Maryland. And so we were fortunate in that way. But she was coming down, had all stuff. We had an apartment back in. So I was like, hey man, I'll buy a blanket, a pillow, and I had rented and I literally just slept on the floor for. I remember just waking up and being like, dude, I'm sore and I've done nothing, but I've literally done nothing but sit at my desk. But now we just worked, man. We worked hard, and that's the one thing I learned from Coach Rooney and Coach Godwin right away was like I thought I knew what working was, but this was different. And again, that work, man, it was tough. It was challenging. We went from a really not a very good program at UCF at the time to, 3 years later. Being the number 2 seed, and getting a chance to go to play in the Tallahassee Regional as the 2 seed and putting together a good product. So a lot to be proud of building that up. Coach Godwin obviously moved on to Ole Miss. And I ended up going to VCU that summer. Again, Coach Stifler, he and I had a really good relationship, and some opportunities opened where I was going to get a chance to go to VCU. And at the time, a lot of people were like, "Man, that's an interesting move going UCF to VCU," but it was important to me to kind of expand and grow as a coach, and I was going to get an opportunity to go coach, run the offense, coach third base, do everything positionally, and so that was something that was really intriguing to me. And I felt like after 3 years at UCF, just personally, I didn't feel like there was anywhere else to kind of grow, and so that was time to do that. So went to VCU for 3 years, and totally different challenges.
As it ever stop.
That's right, for sure. So VCU, I get hired as the coach. We kind of hit the ground running in that summer, and I guess that would have been 19, 11. That would have been the summer of 11, and sitting, we're going through it, and kind of VCU had again, awesome tradition. Coach Keys had done an incredible job, and Coach Stifler had been there now since that time at George Mason when I left. So probably, I guess, 4 or 5 years now. And they had kind of like had a tough stretch for a couple of years. And so we had to kind of build it a little bit back up, and, got in there, and it was just a ton of fun, man. I was doing it with one of my best friends, and getting a chance to go about it every day, kind of building this thing, and really enjoyed that time period. Unfortunately, Coach Keys, our head coach, we were playing my first year there in April up in Boston, and he was feeling ill and sick, and we ended up getting him some checked out once we got back, and he was diagnosed with a pretty aggressive form of melanoma cancer. And that was April. Coach got really sick, didn't coach the rest of the year. Ended up kind of rebounded a little bit in the summer, but he ended up passing away that November. So, I mean, he ended up, basically in 6 months passing away. And that was just, man, a whole nother, like,
Wrinkle,
just,
yeah.
yeah, whole nother challenge, from the standpoint of just, your boss is sick and out, right?
In
And so
6 months,
now,
like you said, yeah.
yeah, for sure. And so, that was handling that with the guys and the kids, and obviously we're close with his family. And just, he had been at VCU for, he was, had built that program essentially. And just the challenges that we kind of faced, just showing up at the yard, man, and playing baseball kind of felt tough, right? In that time period, but you're trying to do it. And trying to keep the guys going and focused in that manner. So that had its challenges, and there was some time period, right, where it's like, well, what's going to happen now? Are they going to hire a new coach? Are we going to be here? Are we not going to be here, right? So they ended up, naming Coach Stiff for the interim, and eventually giving him the full-time job there. And then we coached together for, another 2 years, and very similar, obviously, very similar path to Mason, right, where we kind of built it up from the ground, and really UCF as well built it up a little bit, and there 3 years, and that last year we got to the conference championship game and lost in a heartbreaker, didn't get to a regional, but the following year, I take a job that summer at East Carolina, and the following year they ended up going to the Super, right? So they win.
It seems like just the year after you leave, it just trends really. Maybe it's a you thing.
That's right. Well, I tell them all the time, you guys need to get rid of me so that you guys can take that next step.
Yeah, maybe we'll go to
So that's right. You guys get the home off. I can get out of here. So,
oh my gosh.
but so, well, one thing I always, you need the players, right? You got other players to do those things, and so I always, it's tough, man. It is tough, right? Like, you're watching and I'm watching, and that first year, the year they went to a Super after I left, we actually played them in a 3-game set here at East Carolina. It was our first year
really?
at East Carolina. And you're playing against all the guys
Your boys, yeah, literally.
That's right, that
coached.
you had recruited and developed, and that was a tough weekend, man. I did not enjoy that weekend, but again, man, I'm just proud of the product, and internally, you got to understand where we were when you got there and where they are now. You got to be proud of that. And I remember, man, they clinched. They beat Dallas Baptist at Dallas Baptist. One of the only 4 seeds to really ever run through a regional and win it.
Yeah.
They beat Oregon State, beat Dallas Baptist twice. I mean, they had a good club, and Coach Stifler did an incredible job with them, and so did Coach Elbin, who's now at Tech. He was there as well, and those guys did an incredible job, coaching them up and getting them where they needed to go, and kind of maximizing, right, the talent. So I remember closing my laptop, man, as they clinched to go to Super, and we had a tough year. We had a good year, but then got to a regional. We had lost a tough regional there at Miami, and watching those guys move on, and then they were going to go play Miami in the Super. So you close the laptop, and you're like, man, I got about every emotion you could have, man. Super fired up for Stiff and Coach Elbin and Coach A, all those guys, and the players, and just knowing how much they put into it. But you're like,
wish I could have been a part of it.
But you're not a part of it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What I mean? So, but it's part of it, man. It's part of coaching, and man, you're just excited for what they're able to achieve, and what those guys are able to do. So, and knew, hey, man, we can do some special things here at East Carolina. We just got to put in the same work, the same effort, and get this program to where we want it to go. And same thing, man. You weren't right at the very beginning. You were kind of towards the beginning of the things we've been able to do, but it was a challenge, man. Those first couple of groups, man, they're awesome guys, awesome people. Man, Parker Lamb popped into the office the other day, man, just always fired up to see him. And that group of early guys, and Coach Allen, Hunter Allen's always, I call him Coach Allen. Hunter's always, always in the office. So, man, just always fun to see that group. And when we're on the road, seeing Eric Tyler at Duke, or Charlie Organ on the road, or Bryce Harmon's a scout now, just that group of guys, man, Kamo and Travis, and we don't see Reed a ton, but when we get a chance to, man, just a ton of fun guys that really laid the foundation for what Coach Godwin has, been able to build this thing up to. And it's been fun to see the progression, man, but a lot of obviously work along the way, and a lot of great players and a lot of great people. And that's the part, right, you look back on 10, 11 years later, and you just think, somebody said the other day, people don't realize what you guys have been able to do there. And when you're going through a year like this, I know everybody's frustrated, and that they should be. It's a good thing. It means they have expectations. It means they care. It means they're passionate. Nobody's more disappointed with some of the things that have gone
For
on
sure.
this year than
For sure.
our staff and coach and myself and Coach Knight and everybody here. Right, we have awesome staff and the players. Right, I mean they're investing more than anybody, right? So you look up, everybody's a little bit frustrated, but there's no you got to learn from it. You got to figure out how to get better. You got to figure out how to make the adjustments that we need to make for next year. And that's big picture. Small picture is how do we get this team currently to understand that they are good enough and that we are capable, and we just need to go play winning baseball. And we've done it. We just haven't done it in stretches here in the back half of the year, but we can do it. And it's a possibility. So, but yeah, no, it's been like I said, man, it's gone. It's crazy how fast it's gone, and a lot of stops along the way, but just a lot of really cool people, a lot of awesome players, and been fortunate to be in some really cool spots, and obviously been here a lot longer than the others, so we must like it, I guess.
This episode's also brought to you by my boy Brandon Manning. From his days as a Pitt Community College Bulldog to his years at ECU, Brandon Manning bleeds purple and gold in anything local sports. He was born and raised in Pitt County and your local Farm Bureau insurance agent in Winterville. Brandon can set you up with auto, home, life, and health insurance. You can give him a call over at 252-531-1812. That's 252-531-1812. Thank you, Brandon, for supporting the show and being an avid ECU baseball supporter. Your fan does not go unnoticed. We are glad that you're a Pirate and are so grateful for everything you do in the community and helping the kids learn how to play the game the right way. Shout out to you for supporting the show, brother. Thank you, and go Pirates. This episode is also brought to you by Tiebreakers. Tiebreakers is open every day at 11 a.m. and is the best place to watch your favorite sports while enjoying the best wings in town. They also offer sandwiches, appetizers, cold beer, and more. Follow Tiebreakers on Facebook and Instagram for daily updates. Tiebreakers is in Greenville at Bell's Fork on Greenville Boulevard and in downtown Winterville on Railroad Street. Thank you, Braham and Tracy Anderson, for supporting the show. Tiebreakers has always been a great spot for a lot of the guys when I would go hang out and eat. The service was always awesome. The food was always top-notch, and there were always great sports on. Shout out to you guys for being supporters of local and ECU athletics, and, of course, thank you for sponsoring the show. Appreciate you guys. I tell you what, dude, you would have one hell of a book to write at the end of all this. I mean,
Oh,
geez
yeah.
Louise.
I think it's funny, man. Like, there's a saying, right? When you challenge an old coach, right? And the old coach says, well, I've forgotten more than you'll ever, than you know right now, and it's like, then you look back, and as I'm talking to you, I'm like, just these things that I don't really think about a whole lot, right? They're coming up, and I'm like,
It's nice to reminisce.
that's it. Yeah, no, it is. It's cool. And again, it makes you appreciate the experiences as opposed to getting caught up. As coaches, man, we kind of live day to day. You know what I mean? You live in the moment and, trying to maximize what you're doing today. That's what you always preach to your players, right? So you try to live that, but, maybe once you get done coaching, man, you can really look back on it and appreciate it a little bit more. But good to have segments like this, I guess, where you break it down a little bit.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I talked a little bit about it when Coach G was on, even a titch with AK too, but I have looked briefly into it, but I find it so fascinating, the coaching tree that you guys have. Like the intertwinings of I know this guy, that's how I ended up here, and that's how I met Coach Godwin, and then Coach Godwin and I two coaching stops. Like I find that stuff so incredibly fascinating with the fact that Coach Godwin's bringing AK, Henry, Colby from Ole Miss, and Coach Rozelle's at Kentucky now. Dietz is at Fullerton. Like all of these guys, and even before East Carolina, I think you were talking about with your George Mason coaches too. It is so fascinating to hear about, and you see like the picture of Clemson where it's like Jack Leggett, Tim Corbin, Bakich, and all those guys, and it's like, well, that's a studded, coaching staff. But it's crazy how in some form or fashion everybody is all connected into one because it was either one head guy that everybody had or whatever it may be. But I find that stuff so cool that you and Coach Godwin developed a relationship, I'm assuming a good one because you guys ended up coming back together. But the fact that you're at ECU now and have been together for 11 years or going, I guess, about to finish your 11 years, it's special and it proves to show how you guys, certainly relationship has developed working as close as you guys have been for the last, 15 years now?
Yeah, for sure. No question. And it's just, right. A lot of times it's, people tell you, hey man, you never know what the future holds, right? You never know. And that's why you always, I would encourage, guys wanting to get coaching. It's like, hey man, just learn, be a good person, work hard, meet as many people as you can, but not because that's what you want out of the deal. Just understand that, hey man, down the road, if people notice that you work
Mm-hmm.
hard, notice that you treat people the right way, and that you go about things. You never know who's going to end up getting a job or wanting you to come with them, or those types of things. And I just it's baseball is a small, right. There's the Division I level, right? A little over 300 teams. There's not that many, right? So like we end up getting a chance to know everybody, and understand who they are and what they are. And as you build relationships, right, you're like, yeah, man, one day if I get a chance to have an opportunity to have a program or coach a program, run a program, that's a guy that I enjoy being around. I think he knows what he's doing. I think he treats people the right way and can help us win, right? And so, and that's not just baseball, right? That's any field, anything you want to get into. I always tell people, man, just treat people with respect, man. Work hard, and good doors are going to open for you for sure.
No doubt, no doubt, no doubt, for sure. Taking a step away from baseball, you mentioned your wife Sarah, and being able to start a family, develop a family, and raise a family in Greenville since you've took the job 11 years ago now. But what has it been like? We mentioned it earlier about raising kids in such a baseball centric town, city, being able to have them play baseball at a very high level under a coach that knows what they're talking about, or a dad, I guess, that knows what they're talking about. How cool has it been being able to see their development and be in a town where they're always embraced and always pushed to play? Like, if you don't play baseball, you're wrong here.
Yeah, for sure. Well, obviously, Greenville, and I tell this to every recruit, Greenville is a baseball town, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's what makes this place unique, different, special. They obviously don't necessarily understand. You try to get them to understand as much as possible to get them excited about East Carolina and coming to play for us. But once you're here, they get a taste of it at East Carolina. But what they don't understand is that these kids are raised in this manner from the time they're 6, 7 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they're coming up in a baseball town, and obviously, the Little League program is if there's a better one in on the planet, I'd like to see it in terms of how it's run. Brian Weingart does an incredible job,
No
right,
doubt.
with the stadium, the field, and just everything that goes into it. So the coaches and how much they volunteer in their own time. So it's an incredible spot, man. And I've said it numerous times. It's an incredible spot to raise a family, and we're just so fortunate to have kind of landed here. And Grayson was 8 months old when they moved here, and he's now 11 and playing in the Little League. And obviously we added Parker to the mix, and he's playing now too. And they're on the same Little League team, which is,
No
man,
way.
super
Oh, that's
super
awesome.
cool. Yeah, super cool to watch the two of them play together. And little Ella came along as well, and she's 6, and she's learning the game. She's been breaking it down for me, so she's starting to get the lingo and let me know who's good and who isn't. And her favorite player is Austin Irby. I said, well, why? Why?
Is that right?
She says, because his last name kind of sounds like a pirate, Arby. I said, all right, got it.
Hey, whatever you
So
need. If that's what it
that's
takes,
it.
sounds good.
No, no doubt. So she's into it, and she's learning the game. But it's a baseball place, man, and but it's not just the fact that it's a baseball spot. It's just an awesome community, And I was talking to a coach downstairs at breakfast earlier, um, and Coach Wooder from Charlotte, and we were just talking. He's talking. His wife's the head coach at South Carolina softball. He was telling me about the regional they just won, and he's like, "Yeah, we talk about kids." And he's like, "I don't know how y'all do it with 3 kids." I said, "Well, number one, my wife's not a head coach; she works. But
Yeah, I was
yeah,
about to say it's
in
a
your
little
in
bit
your in
easier.
your world, it's a little bit tougher. But she's obviously she's incredible. She's working today. The kids got haircuts, gymnastics, baseball practice. They got a game tomorrow, and they're gonna hop on an early flight Wednesday to get down here to Clearwater. So it takes a special wife and spouse to help make these things work. But it's an incredible community too that's willing to help, and that's what I told him. I said, man, the cool part is if we need help, man, there's lots of people that they're out in the jungle, watching our games. They understand it, they get it, they know what my lifestyle is like, and they're willing to help in any way possible. It's kind of cool, man. Obviously, they're awesome people, but what people don't realize is like they're willing to help because they love the East Carolina baseball Pirates, right?
That's right.
I mean, like
That's
they,
right.
they want to make sure that they stay good and have great players, and that's a small part of it. But they're just awesome people that know what we're going through and know what we need, and the help we need. But it's an incredible spot, and just so thankful that we've been able to raise our kids here in a spot where they get a chance to have all these cool experiences and be around a lot of great people with awesome schools and great programs, and just a really cool spot.
Yeah, I hadn't been down here until the visit that I went on in, gosh, was it 2018 now? It's forever ago,
Yeah,
it feels like. But you're right. It's baseball centric, and it is a very forgiving town, and it's also a very demanding town. But
for sure.
it's what comes with the price of being an athlete, and especially being a baseball player here. But we mentioned recruiting a bit. And I know that this is a very, like, I don't want to say controversial, but talked about topic, I guess, polarizing. How have you specifically, just because I know that you're one of the best recruiters in the country, how have you kind of not necessarily changed, but developed with the timing of since I was recruited and up to until now with obviously the NIL stuff and all that jazz, but how have you kind of developed your tactics changed, or what has changed since the days before NIL up to now, and how you go about recruiting players?
Yeah, I mean, it's changed. It's changed a lot. I think the NIL, the portal has changed it more than NIL. In
Yeah,
my
good
opinion, the
point.
combination of the two have changed it drastically, right? So
Yeah.
that's the problem. I say problem, not problem, but the challenge, I should say, is that they came kind of simultaneously,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's changed, man. The hard part is you have a little bit less time to recruit players, get to know families, get to know the kids, get to know what makes them tick, and then have them kind of through the ups and downs to help them develop as players and people over the course of 3 or 4 years. I look back on some of the teams that you played on, and you just think back to if the transfer portal was available,
Yeah.
how would things have gone differently?
Mm-hmm.
And I know we'd all like to look up and say 100% it would be different, but the reality is it probably wouldn't have been different. It would have been different in some way, right? And somebody probably would have looked up and said, "Hey, man, I'd like to play a little bit earlier in my process. I'm going to go here. I'm going to try this. I'm going to do that." And then you'd had some that you don't know who, but they might have stuck it out for the 3 or 4 years and kind of gone through the ups and downs and the
Yeah.
adversity to then have success. So,
Which is the way it should be. You can't say that, but I can say it. That's the way it should be. Nobody should just pick up and leave. That's not the way life works. You can't just do that, and you should be able to have to stick it out. Life's not easy. Neither's baseball. So you can't say that. Sorry to interrupt, but I can. So that's what I think.
yeah, no, and I think in a perfect world we would all like that, right? It just
Yep.
it takes the enjoyment out a little bit of being able to look up and say, "Hey, man, like I overcame some things, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
developed into this, and there's just so much instability now of well, who's coming back, who's not coming back, how's this going to go? I mean, the talks now are just so different, right? And so now, obviously, the NIL is another piece of it, right? To allow you to, help maybe facilitate some guys staying or bringing other guys in, and we're fortunate in that manner to have obviously some NIL opportunities for some of our guys, and there's a lot of people that are very giving, right? In order for us to be able to do that, so we're certainly appreciative of all of those things, and trying to figure out and balance it out, right? Like how do we continue to build the culture, right, that we've been so successful with over time, that Coach Godwin's done a great job instilling in the program. And it used to be, right, like you have that program, and we again, it works, right?
Mm-hmm.
This has had success, and the younger guys are holding the younger guys accountable, and that then those young guys become old guys and they do the same thing, and it kind of keeps building off of itself. That's different. That doesn't really, that's hard to have now, right? And we have a little bit of it this year with some older guys, but we don't have nearly as many older guys as we have in the past. And a lot of that is because some guys have chosen to seek out other opportunities. And so, it's our job to continue to facilitate that with the players that we bring in. But generally speaking, you're going to have more new guys now than you used to. So in turn, you're not having that facilitate down as much with these younger new guys. They haven't, these older guys that are coming in, they don't have that experience, right? They're experiencing things new for themselves. And that is the hard part, right? I mean, the way we do things, and how it goes, it's a lot easier your second and third year in this program than it was your first year.
Oh
Your
yeah.
first year, you're kind of right. You're kind of, working uphill a little bit, and you're trying to figure out, what does coach want? How do I do this? How do I hold runners? Like, how does this all go? Right. Well, then by the time you're a sophomore, you got it, man.
Yeah.
You're in. You know what to expect. You know the practice schedule. There it is, and you're like, okay, here we go. Like this is good to go, right? So
100%.
I know what to expect. I can now just go relax and play baseball and be
Mm-hmm.
myself, right? And so, well, this day and age, half the team is new, right? If not more. They're all
Literally.
going through that first year, and yes, they may have some experiences other places, but generally speaking, we do things differently. We probably do things a little bit more challenging than some other places, and
100%. Yeah.
we're going to push them. So that is new, right? So how do I balance this out, right? And then you got new guys, especially going to a year like this year. Well, who's going to play where? How's this going to go? How are these pieces all going to fit together?
Yeah.
And so you get caught up a little bit in that part of it versus just helping the team be successful. It's kind of human nature, right? So again, you have all these just different, unique challenges that having the portal, having NIL. But when it comes to the recruiting piece, I don't think it's any different, right? We always target three things: talented players that we feel like can help us win championships, guys that are committed to their academics and doing as well as they can, right? They don't have to be like, you know, Boro all the
Yeah.
time, right? But it's
Not,
like,
you
hey
don't have
man,
to be Drew Bryans.
yeah, yep, absolutely. But like, but you just have to understand, hey man, we're going to hold you accountable. You need to sit in the front of the classroom. You need to, interact with your professors. You need to go to every class, turn in your own work, and do as well as you can do. And then the third thing is that we want good people in the clubhouse, right? If we can get talented, hardworking, good people, and whether or not they give us 34 or 40 or whatever they're going to give us, if we can do that, right, and put all those guys in one room together, then hopefully we can get everybody pulling in the right direction and obviously develop individually, right? But at the same time, right, that gives us the best chance collectively to go achieve our goals. So that doesn't
All the young
change.
guys listening, all the young guys and high school kids, you want to be a pirate. Those are the three keys right there.
That's it, man. And the talent piece is different, right? Not everybody's going to be the Friday starter, right? But
Mm-hmm.
like, again, we kind of have a pretty good blueprint for what it takes to be successful. And we're usually right in the ballpark. And now it's a matter of, maybe guys staying healthy or, whatever, a break here or there. But for the most part, it's going to be different, right? You got to have, guys that fit our style of play and how we do things. And they're not all going to be 3-hole. They're not all going to be Friday night starters, but that doesn't mean there aren't attributes that you can bring to the table that can help us win at the level that we feel like we need to. So that's going to be different for every program.
Yeah.
But those are kind of the three things that we want to hit on in the recruiting process, and utilizing, right, we always want our foundation to be the high school guys. That's always going to be.
Mm-hmm.
But on any given year, this time of the year, you got to look up and say, well, what are some of the adjustments that we need to make?
Sure.
And do we have that in these freshmen? And if not, then obviously we got to go out and seek out of the portal or the junior college ranks or whatever it may be. You feel like you need to put together the team you need next year.
Yeah, no, for sure. And we've done a good job of that in the past with getting junior college guys that have helped us out. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But that's the way it goes with recruiting in any program, not just ours. And it's you're spot on. Want to give a big shout out real quick to our friends Randy Cole and Mary Ellen Cole. They are two people that bleed purple and gold and love ECU athletics and supporting the athletes that are in the community. I truly appreciate you guys for supporting the show, being a big part of what ECU athletics and ECU baseball has going forward in terms of NIL fan support and being at every game. You guys are some of the biggest supporters that we have. If you get a chance to see Mary Ellen and Randy out in the community, give them a big shout out. Give them a big thank you for their support for the show and athletics as a whole. But thank you guys so much for supporting the show. This episode is also brought to you by Caroline Cook Homes. Caroline is committed to helping you find your dream home, selling your property for the best possible price, and providing top-notch real estate services in Morehead City, Atlantic Beach, Greenville, and Winterville. She is dedicated to providing personalized attention and expert guidance to meet all of your real estate needs. Whether you are a first-time home buyer or an experienced investor, Caroline is here to help you navigate the complex and ever-changing real estate market. She provides herself on local knowledge, professionalism, and commitment to exceeding your expectations. You can explore her website over at carolinecookhomes.com to learn more about the services she provides and the properties she has to offer. Contact her today to start your real estate journey at carolinecookhomes.com, or you can reach her also at ccookrealtor@yahoo.com or at 252-341-1992. That's ccookrealtor@yahoo.com or at 252-341-1992. Caroline, thanks for supporting the show. I'm gonna ask you this, and if you don't want to answer, you are more than welcome to tell me no. I don't want to talk about it, and we can cut it. But have you ever, and this could be at any point in your career, when you were George Mason or even now, have you ever considered wanting or even had the desire to be a head coach anywhere?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. No, I have the desire to be a head coach. I have the desire to be the head coach at some point in time, but it needs to be the right situation. And there's been some opportunities in the past where no one ever looked at me and said, "Hey, listen, you can be the head coach if you want the job." I've never had anybody necessarily reach out to me in that manner, but plenty of opportunities to get involved in some openings, and there's some that I feel like probably could have been the head coach if I really wanted to pursue it at that level. I just always felt like those opportunities have not been, whether it was the timing or the situation, ones that were
Right.
in the best interest of family, situation, personal situation. And it's a very layered thing. And I try to tell people like, um, when it comes to me individually and how I view my career, that is important. But it's got to fit my family and where we're at, with what we're doing. And as we mentioned previously, we're in an incredible spot here.
No
But
doubt.
the other layer is that here at East Carolina, it is a special place, and when you've been here this long and you've invested as much as we have as a staff and myself and my family into it, we've had goals and we have not reached those goals, and we've been extremely successful, and we've done a lot of really really cool things, but we have not, and we've been probably almost as consistent as any program out there, but we haven't done some things that we set out to do, and
Mm-hmm.
that does linger, right? I mean
Oh
that's
yeah. Hey.
when you
Yeah.
don't reach some goals, that is frustrating a little bit, and motivating, right? All at the same time. So like I said, that question, when I get that question, it's a layered thing, right? It's like you have different thought processes, and so with that said, and those things all where they're at, at the moment and in the past, just those opportunities haven't necessarily called for us to jump on them. But yes, that's definitely a goal to be a head coach at some point in
There you go. Everybody that's wondering and asking on the Twitter message boards, there's your answer.
time.
Jeez
There you go.
Louise. Yeah.
There you go.
Gosh. All
There
right.
you go.
Well, couple more quick hits, like quick questions. First thing that pops into your head, and then we'll get you out of here. Thank you for your time again. This has been awesome.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So last year, Coach Godwin gets tossed in Clearwater, coaching third. Did you give Dixon the sign to steal home?
No, no, it wasn't a sign. Not a sign. So basically, that was so Dixon starts kind of in. I could tell kind of the first couple pitches of the at bat. He's like inching and like looking for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically, I just told him, hey, like you got to get down. Like you got to get down further if you're going to go. So
Yeah.
that was kind of the verbiage. So it was definitely his read, but I think when he's looking at it and I'm looking at it, so what happens is Cam takes a swing that wasn't, love Cam to death, but I didn't feel
You
great
could say
about the
it. Yeah.
matchup. I didn't feel great about the matchup. This guy had a really good fastball, and Cam was a little bit late, and so I'm like, I don't know. And then I see Dixon kind of inching, and I'm just kind of like, hey man, like if you're gonna go, you got to get
We
down
gotta
further.
go. Yeah.
And so then Dixon, so I think Dixon has said it in the past, but basically like that kind of gave him the
The green
okay,
light.
like I'm
Yeah.
good to do this.
Yeah.
I'm good to try this. And then he did an awesome job of just timing up kind of the pitcher looking down because they're on the watch, right? They're on the wrist, and so he's looking down. And Dixon, the cool part was right as Dixon's extending, it was, as you know, the stadium's not. I mean, it's big, but it's not. It's kind of empty,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
for
For
whatever
sure.
reason, because of the moment, it was pretty loud, and our fans were
Boy.
down kind of close to our dugout on the third base side. And so the third baseman was, he was trying, he could kind of hear us, right? So he could kind of sense he's
Hey, something might
screaming
go
at the
on.
he's screaming at the pitcher to get his head up. The guy couldn't hear him. And so he's
Wow. I
yelling,
didn't know
and
that.
Dixon's inching. And I said, hey, you got to get down, you got to get down, you got to get down. And then boom, he went. And Dixon just timed it up awesome. So it was not a sign. It was more like, hey, I saw him feel like, okay, like, all right, man, he wants to do this. And I'm like, all right, well, you just got to get down a little bit further if you're going to be safe. And then, obviously with just kind of where we were with two outs and the matchup, at the plate, it was like, all right, we also, we were light on pitching, man, and we did
Oh
not
yeah,
need to
I
go. We
know
did not,
because
right? We did not need to go to extras, right? It was one of those deals where it was like we're light on arms, and
oh yeah,
we can't go to extras and try to win the next game and the game tomorrow. So it's like hell. If we're out, we're out. But let's take a shot at this thing. We don't need extras either way.
that's
So
exactly right. Because I was about to say because I didn't see it in person because I had just came in to pitch. I can't
right.
remember if I struck the guy out or got the final out of the inning because I came in with 2 outs and I'm down there like throwing plyos. It's like the 17th game in a row I pitched. I'm like, let's see what else I got in the tank. And then I hear just everybody screaming. I'm like, there's no way, right? Pass ball, something, right?
Yeah,
And
sure.
I go out there and like Dixon's like getting held up against the netting like he's Simba from Lion King, and I'm like, what is going on? And then I think it might have been Logan. Logan would be like, he just stole home. I'm like, what? He did what? And I watched the replay back, but it's funny because even after the game, there were like memes of like your face cropped on the guy from Major League, like juggling his
No,
nuts, acting
yeah.
like he's got the biggest balls on the planet for calling that
Nah,
play.
yeah,
And I'm like,
it
that's so
was,
funny.
yeah, it wasn't a sign. I mean, really, you don't have time to sign that in,
Yeah,
right?
no, for sure.
You don't even have time. It was more of me seeing Dixon and being like, hey, man, like, just get down if you're gonna go, and it's kind of the dialogue you have, right? And so, but now Dixon, credit to Dixon because he was eyeing it up, and I actually was not. The funny part is, I guess he had done that in our Purple Gold World Series previously in the fall, but I wasn't there because I was doing some
Yeah,
recruiting stuff. I
yeah.
wasn't there. So I literally learned after the fact. He's like, well, I did it in the purple
It's the
gold.
first time.
I'm like, all right, man. I didn't actually get a chance to see that firsthand. But good to know that you can do it, and glad you were, thinking about going, and it all worked out for sure.
No doubt. All right, next one. What is your favorite game that you've ever been a part of at East Carolina?
Ooh,
Tough one. And everybody takes like 30 seconds to answer. So don't like feel like rushed because
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I've asked
Uh,
AK and CG and they're both like, so take your time.
Man, honestly, it's I would say
And
I
it could
would
be
say,
like
man,
emotional
the
moment or it
cool.
could be like really fun moment. It could be a great game you
Yeah, for
watched.
sure, for sure. I'm just trying to think back to some of them. I don't want to miss one in my mind, but let's
Like for example,
see.
AK said Burns versus C Savage. Like that's
Yeah, yeah, that was obviously incredible to watch. I mean, for me, like I just feel like it kind of set the foundation a little bit for some of the success we've had. But the game to beat UVA in Charlottesville back in 16
mhm.
was, I just felt like that game was kind of set the stage for some of the things that we've been able to achieve. Where you go into UVA, we come from behind, and that group of guys, man, like it hadn't been our best year. And we kind of got hot towards the back end a little bit, and they were able to just come up with some really big swings, man, that like were really hard to see coming. And we caught a break the next day with William and Mary beating UVA, so we,
Yeah,
we didn't have to play UVA again to win the regional. But that's how postseason baseball goes, man. That's how some teams advance. They
it's
catch some
crazy.
breaks along the way. But obviously, you credit some of those guys for that comeback. Krasinski just came and spoke to the team. Of course, he pitched an incredible game against Bryant to allow us to get to game 2 against UVA. But for me, that was just one of the fun where it's like, all right, man, like we can do this. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
we can do this, and we can get to supers, and we have a legit shot to go put together some teams that can get to Omaha. So for me, just kind of quick, that's kind of the game. Everybody sees the Travis Watkins home run to kind of give us the lead late and kind of stun them,
Hmm.
to win the ball game. But it's just, man, to me that was a game that kind of stands out at first thought.
Yeah, that year was one of the 2 times we've been closest to Omaha as we could get.
For sure.
That in 22.
Yep.
But all right, next one. What is your favorite piece of memorabilia? And the easiest way I can like explain it is basically you have friends over, you have family over, and it could be baseball, it could be just normal life stuff. But it's like, hey, if we're like just chatting, it's like I got to show you this. If it's in your office, if it's in your house, whatever it is, hey, this is something cool that I have from whether it's a coaching experience, a baseball game, when you were playing, when you're coaching, whatever it may be.
It's funny. I am as far from a memorabilia like
Really?
like you walk in my office. I mean, well, you can walk in my office. There's nothing up. I don't have
Yeah,
anything on
that's
my
true.
walls.
That's true.
I
There's a
don't
big
have.
whiteboard, but that's about it.
That's it. I don't have any. I don't put things up. I don't know. I've just never been that type of person. It's interesting. And now I have children, and I've
Yeah,
actually
true.
thought about this. Right. So like, just because I don't like memorabilia and I don't like autographs, and they're of no value to me. I don't really care about them at all.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean my children won't, right? And so I kind of feel like it's my job to like, hey man, do you want to get his autograph? Like, do you want, because maybe they're going to love those things, right? I
Yeah.
don't want to necessarily instill my thoughts on them in that manner. So, so like we went to, Coach was awesome. Took us up to, we're big Orioles fans, and took us up to New York last year. He wanted to go see LeMahieu, who played for him before he got done playing, and
Hmm.
DJ was incredible, man, and just got us
That's so cool.
tickets and on field and BP passes and hotel. I mean, it was incredible. So we fly up there, man. And we, the boys got, autographs from a bunch of Yankees and got a chance to hang out with Jazz and get pictures
That's
with
so
him.
cool.
And,
Oh man.
Grayson's a big Rushman
I
guy.
was about to say,
So,
I bet he ate it up.
oh dude, well, I felt bad, right? Like we're going into Yankee Stadium. LeMahieu gets us tickets. I'm like, boys, you can't wear all your Orioles gear
Yeah. No,
onto the
for
field
sure.
for
For sure.
BP.
Yeah.
So, so they got all their East Carolina stuff on, but the Orioles stuff is underneath. So literally,
Of course
Yankees
it
get
is.
done, they come sign
It's all right.
Cabrera,
It's coming off.
Volpe. Yeah, they're all
Yeah.
interacting with the boys, hanging out. And they're like, oh, who's this? ECU, got it. And the second they all leave, and the Orioles take, boom, off come the hoodies, the
Yeah.
pirate hoodies.
Adley.
Here go the jerseys, and the
Yeah.
hats come out, so they got Kerstad, Adley Rushman, and but they got all these autographs, right? They loved it, right? So which is cool. So I really am not a huge memorabilia guy. Like I keep, obviously I'm super proud of like the rings, right? That you guys have been able to help us get,
Right.
and I think that's cool. For me, it's more about like those signify hard work, right? And like what you've invested in. Where an autograph to me is, or memorabilia, like it's more stuff from career, the career that you'll
Yeah.
look back on and appreciate than it is, somebody from a big leaguer or somebody like that. Because, I've come to realize, man, those guys that are playing in the big leagues or those guys that have played forever, like they're just normal people too, man. They just were talented at baseball or whatever it is. And
Yeah.
if
I
they're
get it.
good people, and you get a chance to interact with them, and
Mhm.
like have that experience with them, and you
That's
can
cool.
tell they're awesome people, man, that to me is a lot more meaningful than the autograph they put on a bat or glove or whatever.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's the pictures and like hey, that guy is actually a really good dude, and he's
For
also
sure.
good at baseball.
Well,
Yeah,
that was the cool part about Jazz. Like Jazz came over and like he didn't really speak that much, but like he just was like, that's like what I know. Like I had this perception, of course, Grayson is like, dude, he's on the front of MLB
yeah,
The
the
Show
show,
24,
yeah,
whatever it is, and
yeah.
I'm like, all right, he's a flashy,
This
like,
guy's gonna suck. Yeah,
well, yeah,
anybody
like
would think that.
I just was like, he's a flashy player. I just was stunned, man. He came over and he spent like 30 minutes, maybe. Like
That's
there's
awesome.
a row of fans and stuff along the rope, and dude, he was taking pictures and talking and interacting, and I was just like taken aback. I'm like, man, I'm a huge fan of that dude. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Like because most of the guys just bolted right to the clubhouse or whatever,
yeah,
and he could tell he was like just loving it, man. He had been in Miami where there are probably no fans forever. He's like, I'm soaking this up, man.
yeah,
I'm going to
exactly.
interact with all these folks, and so that was really cool. The boys love that, but to me, like that, okay, that guy stands out for him, man. He plays for the Yankees, but I'll root for that guy when he's not playing against the Orioles,
There you go.
So, yep.
I'm sorry about your manager getting fired the other day. By the way, we don't have to get
Yeah,
into it, but
it's
that
tough,
sucks.
man.
It's not
It's
ideal.
tough. Yeah, tough
ideal.
deal. I actually played with the interim manager in summer ball. So
Really?
yeah,
There you go. See,
excited
another
for
part
him.
of the coaching tree. Another part of it.
Excited for him. Yeah, that's all a really cool opportunity. Although I thought Coach Hyde did a good job, so that was
It's not
yeah.
that.
Never. Hey, when you're in this industry, you never want to see anybody getting fired. Not a good deal.
No, I mean he was manager of the year 2 years ago, but whatever. I
Yeah.
digress. All right,
Yeah.
last one. We'll get you out of here. We know you're busy. You know you got practice and meetings later, but this is actually an interesting question. I don't think this is the first person I've asked. What is your biggest or best in your eyes recruiting find? So somebody that wasn't like highly touted, like I don't know, like Landon committed when he was like 11 years old. It felt like,
Sure.
or like Josh Moylan or whoever. But who is somebody that you're like under the radar? You found him diamond in the rough, and he turned out to be really, really good.
It's a
Sorry
good
to
one,
put you on
man.
the spot again. Yeah, exactly.
No, that's cool. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of them, man. It just in terms of like, man, just fired up about how those guys, took advantages of some opportunities. trying to think back to just make sure I don't miss anybody, even some other spots. I got a guy by the name of Ryan Source who played for me at George Mason that we recruited there. Ended up being a conference player of the year. He was up in the Cape playing one summer because he was from the Northeast. They gave him an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
He was a transfer. He didn't play at South Florida, and we took a flyer on him. He ended up playing pro ball and being conference player of the year, All American. That was a pretty good one. Trying to think back to our time here at East Carolina. Obviously, there's a couple that come to mind. I may not throw them out here right now, but
Yeah, I get it.
But there's a couple that have had some good careers here, man. But I mean, I think you look back like, obviously Trey, right? I mean, there's a guy that,
Sure.
that kind of fell into our lap a little bit, with some stuff.
No doubt.
Obviously he was committed early. Some things changed on his end, and his process opens up, and I get a phone call one day about him, and I mean, he ends up being, when you talk about how far they elevate themselves, he probably is one that comes to mind as a guy who, ended up being super successful. I mean, Riley Johnson is the one that, kind of obviously being undersized, and his recruiting process was a little bit unique, for us. And I know he's been injured a little bit for us, but obviously, I mean, you talk about the year that he had last year, and it's tough to think about, but some of the things that would have happened had he been healthy.
No
But I mean, Justin Wilcoxon is a guy that kind of comes
Sure.
to mind as kind of, maybe not as highly touted coming out of high school, and you talk about his career and what he was able to put together here.
And another guy that struggled when he was a freshman and stuck it out and ended up being pretty good.
Yep, absolutely. I just think that, when you think about those guys that kind of came from, having to work through it. I mean, Joey Barini, right, playing for 2 years as a starting shortstop at East Carolina. You're not going to be able to take that away from that guy. And his recruiting process maybe didn't necessarily lend itself to that happening, right? So some of those guys, different, I guess, different takes on the question, but you get a little bit of both sides of it, there in that way.
There you go. Yeah, those are good answers. That's exactly what I was looking for, and exactly what I had expected. But Coach, I am so eternally grateful for your time. It's been more than I could ask for, and it's a great conversation. I'm glad we could reminisce a little bit and get your mind off the weekend task ahead, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Looking forward to the challenge this week, man. But no, always good to look back. Like I said, it makes you appreciate things, a whole lot. So I appreciate you having me on, buddy. Always fun.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Hope you enjoyed it. But that's Coach Palumbo's episode. Good luck this week, Coach, and bring the trophy home.
Let's do it. Thanks, Danny. Appreciate it, buddy.
Thanks, Coach. I want to take another quick break, tell you about our friends over at Young's Physical Therapy and Sports Performance. It is the only clinic in Greenville that you should be going for your PT and training needs. They specialize in physical therapy for athletes and the active population. Their PTs are sport-specific and know how to treat any injury. They also have private, semi-private, and team training for workout classes or even conditioning. They are all highly trained professionals who collaborate and utilize a team approach in an elite 9,300 square foot facility. Thank you to Kevin and Jennifer for supporting the show. You guys are awesome and being the official physical therapy partner of ECU Athletics. They're amazing in the community. Hearing Kevin's testimony on the show a few months ago was awesome. Shows they're good, God-loving people and that they're here for you guys to work together and make you stronger. Shout out Kevin and Jennifer, and thank you for supporting the show. All right, that was Jeff Palumbo, Associate Head Coach, East Carolina. Hope you guys enjoyed it. It really was a cool conversation. It was an hour 20 plus of just some really good conversation, and I always like talking to the coaches because they always have a great perspective, and he is one of the most knowledgeable and detail-oriented coaches who has been very, very knowledgeable in the game and has talked and coached with a ton of great coaches, and we talked a little bit about the coaching tree in the episode. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. Really, really cool, like I said, talking about his family, talking about his time at East Carolina specifically and all his favorite moments. We talked a little bit about Dixon stealing home last year in the conference tournament, but some other stuff as well. But hope you guys enjoyed it. Another great episode. Be tuned for the next episode. See you next time.